You know, it was interesting because I used to spend a lot of time when I'd go into these companies kind of evangelizing about vulnerability, it's important. Then one day I found myself on a military base talking to special forces, and I just asked a simple question. Give me an example of courage that you've seen or witnessed in your life, or that you've done yourself, that didn't require uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, which is the definition of vulnerability. Give me a single example of courage that did not require that. And there was just silence until one guy just raised his hand and said, 3 tours, ma'am. There is no courage without vulnerability. And so now I just ask audiences that simple question. Give me an example of courage that doesn't require uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure.
Oh, you say it's a skill.
It's a skill set. I mean, we've been studying it I've been doing this work for 20 years, the last 7 years, really looking at courage and leadership specifically. 4 skill sets. Can you rumble with vulnerability? Can you stay in tough things when they get uncomfortable and awkward, or do you tap out? 2, and this is a hard one, living into your values. Are you clear about what your values are, and have you operationalized those into behaviors? Do you know what behaviors support your values, what don't? 3, braving trust. Can you build trust and be trustworthy? And the last one, which I think was really interesting, was learning how to get back up, learning how to rise. Because we found that people are more willing to be courageous up front if they know how to rise.
Yeah.
Courage is incredibly contagious, as is fear, as we can see in the world, as is scarcity. And so courage is contagious, and we can teach it, we can learn it, we can measure it, and we have to create cultures where being armored all the time is not rewarded behavior. I'm glad we went there, because here's the thing.
John goes there.
Yeah, John goes there. I'll go with you, John. You can absolutely get away. I mean, you can get masses of people behind you if you do 2 things. If you weaponize uncertainty, if you take people who are in uncertainty and guarantee them certainty, and then give people someone to blame for their pain. I mean, you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that fear has a short shelf life, and you cannot do that for very long. The question is always, what kind of damage are you going to do while you're able to do that? But I have seen no evidence, and I'm reading Doris Kearns Goodwin right now, so I'm a huge
Her book
fan.
on
Yes,
leadership.
her book on leadership. I don't think that's sustainable. Vulnerability is not disclosure. So that's the big mythology, right? It's not like, I know a lot of leaders who show up and just everything. That has nothing to do with courage or vulnerability. Vulnerability is, can you manage uncertainty and risk and emotional exposure? Can you stay in the hard conversation? Can you tell the truth? Can you give feedback when it's hard? Can you ask for feedback when it's hard? Vulnerability is, I believe, and it's probably 60% of the book, the only path to courage, and it is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, trust, empathy. I love it when people call and say, hey, can you come talk to our company, Brené? We'd love to have you speak. Just don't mention vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's going to be simple. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Stop avoiding the tough conversations because you think you're being polite or kind to people. That's not kind. Symbolize those into behaviors. Do you know what behaviors support your values, what don't? 3, braving trust. Can you build trust and be trustworthy? And the last one, which I think was really interesting, was learning how to get back up, learning how to rise. Because we found that people are more willing to be courageous up front if they know how to rise.
Yeah.
Courage is incredibly contagious, as is fear, as we can see in the world, as is scarcity. And so courage is contagious, and we can teach it, we can learn it, we can measure it, and we have to create cultures where being armored all the time is not rewarded behavior.